Before my sister's wedding, I received a message from an unknown number. Don't go there today, and don't tell your husband about this. I dialed the number, and when the caller spoke, I froze in shock. If these stories matter to you, please subscribe. Your subscription means more to me than you can imagine. It's motivation. It's the reason I keep telling these stories. And write in the comments where you're watching from. Now let's begin. Elena Vlasova stepped out of a jewelry boutique on Primorskia Street. In her hands, she held a small velvet box containing a strand of pearls worth 180,000 rubles. A wedding gift for her younger sister, Ekaterina. She was 42 years old. She was a successful architect who had designed several new hotels along the coast. Her firm, Kudryavtseva Design, had become one of the most respected in southern Russia. 8 years ago, she married Denis Vlasov. And from the outside, her life seemed perfect. Denis was handsome, patient, and devoted. He left his consulting job to raise their 5-year-old daughter, Paulina, while Elena built her career. He cooked dinner every evening. He volunteered at Paulina's school. He sent Elena flowers every Friday. Tomorrow, her sister Ekaterina would marry Timofey Sazonov at St. Vladimir's Church by the sea. The wedding reception was to take place in the Grand Hall of Radina with a view of the Black Sea. Elena personally oversaw every detail: flowers from the local market, a live orchestra, seating arrangements for 200 guests. She wanted this day to be perfect for her younger sister, who had waited so long for it. Her phone vibrated. Elena glanced at the screen, expecting a reminder from Ekaterina about the family dinner. Instead, she read words that made her hands freeze around the velvet box. Don't go to the wedding. Run. And don't tell your husband. The number was unfamiliar. She reread the message once, then again. The words blurred as her attention locked completely onto the screen. Her first thought was a wrong number or a cruel joke. But the specificity, "don't tell your husband," dug under her skin like a splinter. She stepped into the doorway of a closed cafe, seeking shelter from both the cold sea breeze and the sudden dizziness that overtook her. Her hands trembled as she dialed the number. The phone rang once. Twice. 3 times. A woman answered. Her voice was quiet, trembling, as if she had been waiting for this call for years. Is this Elena Vlasova? Yes. Who is this? A long pause, then words that shattered everything. My name is Svetlana Ustinova. I am Denis's first wife. The one he told you died in a car accident 14 years ago. I didn't die, Elena. I ran away. And if you go to that wedding tomorrow, he will make sure you never leave either. Elena did not go home. She called Denis and said she would be late with a client from Moscow. Her voice was calm, polished by years. 20 years of business meetings had taught her how to lie when necessary. Then she walked 3 blocks to the Marins Park Hotel and checked into a room overlooking the sea. The room was elegant, with panoramic windows facing the Black Sea. The sunset painted the water in shades of orange and gold. But Elena felt nothing except cold. She sat on the edge of the bed, still in her buttoned coat, holding the phone to her ear. Svetlana spoke for 2 hours. She had married Denis when she was 24. They lived in a small apartment in Adler, a district of Sochi. Denis was charming, ambitious, and attentive. For 2 years, their marriage seemed perfect. He brought her coffee in bed. He wrote her little notes. He told her she was the most beautiful woman in Russia. But behind closed doors, Svetlana said, Denis was a different person. He controlled the money. He isolated me from friends. He checked my phone. He followed me at work. When I tried to leave, he showed his true face. Elena listened, her heart pounding. He staged my death, Svetlana continued. Her voice was steady now, hardened by years of survival. He damaged my car, cut the brake lines, then pushed it into the Black Sea near the port. On the shore, they found my coat, my shoes, my handbag. The car was found 3 days later at the bottom of the sea. He received the insurance. 7 million rubles. How did you survive? Elena whispered. I got out before the car went into the water. I swam to the rocks. It was February. The water was freezing. I almost died of hypothermia. The next morning, a fisherman found me. He hid me in his shed for 3 weeks. He brought me food. He gave me clothes. When I was strong enough, I left Sochi. I went to Krasnodar, then to Rostov, then to Volgograd. I changed my name. I cut my hair. I've been watching Dennis all these years. Why now? Why are you warning me now? Because he's planning to do it again. Svetlana's voice trembled. I've been watching him for 14 years. He has a warehouse outside the city near the Olympic Park. You'll find everything there, photos, documents, a detailed plan. 2 years ago, he took out a life insurance policy on you. 10 million rubles. The payout doubles if you die in an accident. Elena's hands trembled so badly she almost dropped the phone. The wedding? Yes, Svetlana said. The reception will be by the sea. It's the perfect place. Too many people, too much champagne, too much chaos. He'll damage your car. You'll drive home, lose control on the turn by the port, and fall into the water. Everyone will think you had won too many glasses of champagne. No one will suspect anything. Elena closed her eyes. The Black Sea shimmered outside the window, beautiful and deadly. How do you know all this? Because I have the key to the warehouse, Svetlana said. And because I've been waiting 14 years to see him pay. At dawn, Elena met Svetlana at the Olympic Park. The woman was thinner than in her photos. Her hair was touched with gray. Her face was lined with fear and waiting. But her eyes were sharp. She had been waiting a very long time. They embraced like old friends who had survived the same war. The warehouse was a small concrete box behind a row of souvenir shops. Svetlana unlocked the padlock. The door opened with a rusty creak. Inside was a single metal box. Elena knelt on the cold concrete and opened it. The first thing she saw was a photograph of a young woman with kind eyes and a shy smile. She recognized Svetlana in her youth. Beneath it were other photos. Dennis and Svetlana on their wedding day. Dennis in their apartment. Dennis standing by the Black Sea, the very sea where he would later push her car. Then came the documents. With trembling hands, Elena pulled out a stack of papers. There was an insurance policy from 14 years ago, paid out after Svetlana's death. 7 million rubles. There were bank statements showing that Dennis had emptied Svetlana's accounts before her disappearance. There was a handwritten plan with dates, places, details of his scheme, written in Dennis's handwriting. And then a new policy. From 2 years ago. 10 million rubles. Elena Vlasova listed as the insured. Denis Vlasov as the sole beneficiary. Double payout in case of accidental death. He's been planning this for 2 years, Elena whispered. There's something else, Svetlana said quietly. At the bottom of the box was a photograph of a man Elena didn't recognize. He was young, around 30, with dark hair and eyes like Svetlana's. Who is this? Svetlana's face went pale. This is my brother, Andrei. He was the only one who believed me. When I disappeared, he went to the police. He told them Dennis had killed me. He demanded an investigation. 2 weeks later, he was found dead in his apartment. They called it suicide. It wasn't suicide. How do you know? Because Andrei was left-handed, Svetlana said, her voice breaking. The gun was in his right hand. Dennis didn't know that. He staged the scene wrong. But the police didn't care. They closed the case. They said Andrei was depressed because of his sister's death. They called it suicide and moved on. Elena's phone vibrated. A message from Dennis. Where are you, my love? Family dinner at 6 o'clock. Katya is asking about you. Paulina wants to show you the drawing she made for the wedding. Elena looked at Svetlana. I need to go back. I have to act normal. Svetlana squeezed her hand. Don't show him fear. That's what he feeds on. And Elena, call Detective Pyotr Maslov. He's the only one who believed me 14 years ago. He's been waiting for this day. He'll help you. Elena returned home at noon. She walked through the door with the velvet box in her hands. A warm smile was fixed on her face. Dennis was in the kitchen, preparing lunch. Paulina sat at the table, coloring a picture of flowers. There you are, Dennis said, looking up and giving her that warm, patient smile that had deceived her for 8 years. I was worried. I was shopping with Natasha, Elena said, naming her best friend. She lifted the velvet box. The pearls are beautiful. Ekaterina will love them. Dennis walked over and kissed her on the forehead. You're the best sister anyone could ask for. Paulina, look, Mom's home. Paulina ran to her, waving a crayon drawing. Mom, look, I made this for Aunt Katia's wedding. Elena knelt down and studied the drawing. It showed 2 figures in white dresses standing in front of a church. It's beautiful, my love. She'll treasure it. She played her role perfectly. She had lunch. She helped Paulina with her dress for the wedding. She called Ekaterina to confirm the final details. And all the while, Dennis watched her, looking for cracks. That evening, at the family dinner, Elena sat beside Dennis at the main table. The restaurant overlooked the sea. Candles flickered on white tablecloths. Tomorrow, 200 guests would gather here. But tonight, it was only family. Ekaterina glowed in a simple white dress. Timofey made a toast about the union of 2 families. Dennis kept his hand on Elena's knee, his thumb tracing small circles. To any observer, they were the perfect couple. Elena went to the restroom. Inside a stall, she called Detective Pyotr Maslov. He answered after the first ring. Elena Vlasova. Yes. Svetlana Ustinova told me to call you. A long pause, then. She's alive? Yes, and I have proof. A warehouse near Olympic Park. Documents, photographs, a written plan. Dennis is planning to kill me tomorrow at my sister's wedding. I'll be there, Pyotr said. His voice was firm. Change nothing. Don't let him suspect anything. Act normal. I'll handle the rest. Does he know you called me? No. He thinks I'm with Natasha. Good. Keep it that way. Go back to dinner, smile, laugh. Let him think his plan is working. I'll be at the wedding tomorrow with my team. When he makes his move, we'll be ready. The wedding morning was clear and bright. St. Vladimir's church stood white against the blue sky. Its golden domes reflected the sunlight. Bells rang across the city, calling the faithful to prayer. Ekaterina wore an ivory dress. Her veil moved in the sea breeze. She had never looked more beautiful. Timofey waited at the altar. His eyes glistened with tears. His hands trembled as he watched his bride walk toward him. Elena stood beside her sister as a bridesmaid. She wore a dark blue dress the color of the sea. She smiled. She held Ekaterina's hand. She pretended everything was normal. But her eyes kept finding Dennis in the crowd. He sat in the 3rd row beside his mother, Galina Vlasova. He wore a perfectly tailored gray suit. He looked like a devoted husband. He caught Elena's eye and smiled. She smiled back. The ceremony was beautiful. Father Alexander read prayers. Incense rose toward the golden domes. The choir sang ancient hymns that had been sung in Russian churches for 1,000 years. Ekaterina and Timofey exchanged vows. Their voices were calm and sincere. Elena watched them with tears running down her face, tears of joy for her sister, tears of grief for the life she was losing. After the ceremony, the wedding procession moved along the promenade to the Grand Hall of Radina. The hall was magnificent. Panoramic windows overlooking the Black Sea. Crystal chandeliers. Tables covered in white and gold linens. 200 guests filled the room, laughing and sipping champagne. Elena sat at the head table beside Dennis. She smiled for photographs. She made small talk with relatives. She watched her sister dance with her new husband. Timothy spun Ekaterina around the dance floor. Both were laughing. Both were free. And she watched Dennis glance at his watch. At 9 p.m., he leaned toward her ear. I need to step outside for a minute. The car keys are with the valet. I want to make sure everything is ready for our drive home. Elena's heart stopped. This was it. He was going to tamper with her car. Of course, she said, kissing him on the cheek. I love you. I love you too, he said. His eyes were warm, his smile gentle. She had believed that smile for 8 years. He headed toward the exit. Elena waited exactly 60 seconds. Then she stood, walked to the DJ booth, and picked up the microphone. Excuse me, may I have everyone's attention? The music stopped. 200 faces turned toward her. Ekaterina looked up from the dance floor, confusion on her face. Timothy stood beside her, his arm around her waist. I'd like to make a toast, Elena said, her voice echoing through the hall. This is not the toast I planned, but it is the toast my sister deserves. She pressed play on her phone, which she had connected to the sound system that morning. The hall filled with Svetlana's voice. My name is Svetlana Ustinova. I am Denis Vlasov's first wife. The woman he told everyone died in a car accident 14 years ago. I did not die. He tried to kill me. A wave of frightened gasps swept through the crowd. Ekaterina covered her mouth with her hand. Timothy pulled her closer. Galina Vlasova stood up. Her face was white with shock. Elena held up the documents from the warehouse. These are insurance policies, bank statements, and a handwritten plan detailing how my husband intended to kill me tonight at this wedding and collect 10 million rubles. She turned to the screen, where the DJ was already projecting images from her phone. Photos appeared, the warehouse, the documents, the newspaper clipping about Svetlana's death, the photograph of Andrei Ustinov. This man, Elena said, pointing to Andrei's face, was Svetlana's brother. He tried to expose Denis 14 years ago. 2 weeks later, he was found dead in his apartment. The police called it suicide. It was murder. The hall erupted. Guests stood, shouting questions. Some rushed toward the exits. Others stared at the screen in horror. At that moment, the banquet hall doors opened. Svetlana Ustinova walked in. She was thinner than in the photographs. Her hair was streaked with gray, but her eyes were alive. She walked between the tables, and 200 guests parted before her like the sea. She wore a simple black dress. Her hands were steady. Behind her walked Detective Pyotr Maslov. His hand rested on his service weapon. Denis burst through the side door. His face was pale, his hands raised. Elena, what are you doing? You're not yourself. You're not well. She's just exhausted. She's been under so much stress. She is perfectly fine, Pyotr Maslov interrupted, stepping forward. Denis Vlasov, you are under arrest for the attempted murder of Elena Vlasova, the attempted murder of Svetlana Ustinova, and the murder of Andrei Ustinov. Denis stepped backward toward the exit. 2 uniformed officers blocked his path. You have the right to remain silent, Pyotr said, pulling out handcuffs. I've been waiting 14 years for this. Denis lunged toward the window. The officers grabbed him before he could take 3 steps. They slammed him to the floor. His hands were pulled behind his back. The handcuffs clicked shut. 200 guests watched in stunned silence as Denis Vlasov was led out of his sister-in-law's wedding in handcuffs. His mother, Galina, collapsed into a chair and burst into tears. 3 months later, the Central District Court of Sochi was packed. The wooden benches were filled with journalists, curious citizens, and family members following the case. Elena sat in the front row beside Svetlana. Ekaterina and Timofey sat behind them. Paulina was with Elena's mother, safe and far from the courtroom. Judge Nadezhda Fomina entered. She was a strict woman. Her gray hair was pulled tightly back. Her face showed no emotion. She had presided over some of the most high-profile cases in Sochi. Everyone stood. "Be seated," she said. Her voice was calm but authoritative. Case number 1478 is now in session. The Russian Federation versus Denis Vlasov. The defendant is charged with attempted murder, insurance fraud, and the murder of Andrei Ustinov. Prosecution, are you ready? Prosecutor Stanislav Shestakov stood. He was a tall man with a deep voice and a reputation for being undefeated in murder cases. Ready, Your Honor. Defense? Denis's attorney, Albert Famin, stood. He was younger, ambitious, known for taking on difficult cases. Ready, Your Honor. Judge Fomina nodded. The prosecution may call its first witness. Stanislav turned to the courtroom. The prosecution calls Svetlana Ustinova. Svetlana walked to the witness stand. Her hands trembled slightly, but her back was straight. She raised her right hand and swore to tell the truth, then sat down. Svetlana Ustinova, Stanislav began, please tell the court your relationship to the defendant. I was his first wife, Svetlana said quietly. And what happened to you 14 years ago? Svetlana took a deep breath. He tried to kill me. He sabotaged my car and pushed it into the Black Sea. He wanted the insurance money. Albert Famin stood. Objection, Your Honor. The witness is speculating. There is no evidence that the defendant tampered with the vehicle. Judge Fomina raised an eyebrow. Overruled. The witness was present. She may testify to what she saw. Proceed. Svetlana looked at Denis, who sat at the defense table with a stone-cold expression. His suit was expensive, paid for with Elena's money. His hands were folded in front of him. He looked like a businessman at a meeting, not a man accused of murder. I saw him cut the brake lines the night before, Svetlana said. I was watching from the window. He didn't know I was awake. The next day, he drove my car to the port. He pushed it into the water. He stood on the shore and watched it sink. Your Honor, Albert said, this is absurd. The witness staged her own death and disappeared for 14 years. She abandoned her family, her brother. How can anything she says be trusted? Stanislav stepped forward. Your Honor, the prosecution has physical evidence confirming every word of the witness. We call Detective Pyotr Maslov. Pyotr approached the stand. His uniform was impeccable. His face was serious. He had been waiting for this moment for 14 years. Detective Maslov, Stanislav said, please describe what you found in the defendant's warehouse near Olympic Park. Pyotr opened a folder. We found a handwritten document detailing the defendant's plan to murder his wife, Elena Vlasova, at her sister's wedding. We found insurance policies totaling 10 million rubles, with double payout in case of accidental death. We found photographs of Svetlana Ustinova taken shortly before her disappearance. And we found this. He lifted a plastic evidence bag containing a folded letter. The paper had yellowed with time. What is that? Stanislav asked. A suicide note from Andrei Ustinov, Pyotr said. Forensic analysis confirmed it was written by the defendant. The handwriting matches Denis Vlasov's. He forged his brother-in-law's suicide note after killing him. The courtroom erupted. Judge Fomina slammed her gavel. Order. Order in the courtroom. One more outburst and I will clear the room. Albert Famin stood, his face flushed. Your Honor, this is outrageous. My client has no criminal record. He is a loving father and husband. These accusations are fabricated by a bitter ex-wife and an overzealous detective who has been obsessed with this case for 14 years. Stanislav smiled. Then perhaps the defendant would like to explain his own handwriting. He walked to the defense table and placed the handwritten plan in front of Denis. "This is your handwriting, Mr. Vlasov." Denis stared at the paper. His face was pale. He didn't say a word. "Your Honor," Stanislav said, "the prosecution asks the defendant to read the third paragraph aloud." Judge Fomina looked at Denis. "Mr. Vlasov, please read the indicated passage." Denis's hands trembled as he picked up the paper. His voice was barely audible. "After the wedding, Elena will drive home alone. The brake line will fail at the turn by the port. The car will fall into the water. The insurance will pay double, and I will be free." Silence filled the courtroom. Elena closed her eyes. Beside her, Svetlana squeezed her hand. "Thank you, Mr. Vlasov," Stanislav said quietly. "The prosecution rests." Albert Famin delivered his closing argument. He spoke for 15 minutes. His voice was passionate, his gestures broad. He spoke about Denis's love for his daughter. He spoke about the difficulties of marriage. He spoke about how thoughts are not crimes. "Your Honor," he said, "my client wrote something he should not have written. He had dark thoughts, but he never acted on them. He is innocent until proven guilty." Stanislav stood. He did not raise his voice. He did not gesture. "Your Honor," he said, "the defendant wrote a detailed plan to murder his wife. He attempted to kill his first wife 14 years ago. He murdered her brother to cover it up. The evidence is undeniable. The truth leaves no doubt. The prosecution asks for the maximum sentence." Judge Fomina sat in silence for a moment. Then she looked at Denis. "Denis Vlasov, you are found guilty of the attempted murder of Svetlana Ustinova, the murder of Andrei Ustinov, and the attempted murder of Elena Vlasova. The evidence against you is overwhelming. Your own words condemn you." Denis opened his mouth to speak, but the judge raised her hand. "I sentence you to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole." Denis collapsed into his chair. Court officers stepped forward and pulled him to his feet. They led him past the courtroom. As he passed Elena, he stopped. His eyes were empty. "I loved you," he said. Elena stood. Her voice was steady. "No, Denis. You loved my money. You loved what I could give you. You never loved me." They led him out the door. The courtroom slowly emptied. Outside the courthouse, the Black Sea sparkled under the afternoon sun. Elena stood on the steps beside Svetlana. "What will you do now?" Elena asked. Svetlana smiled, a real smile. "I'm going home. My mother is still alive. She never stopped believing I was out there somewhere." "And you?" Elena looked at the sea. "I will raise my daughter. I will build buildings. I will live." Ekaterina ran up the steps and embraced her sister. "You saved all of us." Elena walked down the steps alone, but not lonely. The sea breeze touched her face. The lights of Sochi stretched along the coastline, beautiful and endless. For the first time in 8 years, she was exactly where she was meant to be. Alone. Alive. Finally. Free. Thank you for listening. If this story touched your heart, please like, share it with your loved ones, and subscribe to my channel.